Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico show. This episode's been in the works for a while, and it's cool to be face to face with my good friend and fellow writer, filmmaker, director. This guy's won multiple awards. Really making a splash in the romance novel scene and other endeavors. He's always got his hands in multiple things. It's great. Very diversified and always keeping things moving. Please welcome to the show my very talented friend, Mr. Jeff Rivera. It's good to have you.
Well, I'm gonna give myself a hand. Let me just bow.
And green screen extraordinaire.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it. So
yeah. So Jeff and I have known each other. Now it's over a year, right? At least.
Yeah.
2 years,
that,
maybe.
Yeah. It's been about a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah. And just beginning stages for you. Of course, people that are coming across this interview, they're going to know your name. You're internationally known in your writing sphere and what you've done. I want to start with beginning stages, though, for you, as far as how you got into writing. I remember we talked the last time we were in person last year at a meeting. We were talking a little bit about your traveling, and you traveled a lot when you were young. And just kind of how, beginning stages, how that played into your writing and how it developed your artistic career.
Well, definitely. I mean, just to give people a little background about me. I'm a writer-producer. I spent most of my career so far being an author, writing different types of love stories and romance, some under my real name, some under my pen names, different genres, but primarily love stories. And now I've made the shift from doing books to moving more toward film and television, more episodic work right now. So I began my career really at the tender age of 6, writing stories when I was in about first grade about the kids in class. And I didn't even know it was called writing. I just sort of just did it. And then in fact, I was encouraged quite a bit along the way by my teachers. My second grade teacher encouraged me a lot. My third grade teacher she put me in the talented and gifted classes for young writers. And I was just sort of encouraged to continue to write. And that, is something that carried me through my life, something that became part of who I am. I can't even imagine not writing in some form every day.
Right.
It's really become my identity. Like, I think, for example, you're a filmmaker, but you're also probably first and foremost a musician, and probably can't even imagine being without being able to sing or be able to write or songs or play and whatnot. That's been my identity. I've been a writer, a storyteller of sorts since then. And basically, I tried different aspects of film and television as a child actor. I then moved on to being an assistant to a casting director, which was great. I learned a lot. At the age of 24, I was negotiating with producers from CSI, from all kinds of major producers and productions. And then after a couple productions, I decided to shift into writing books, and I stayed there for about pretty much 10 years or so, maybe 15 years or so. And along the way, I started interviewing people just like you're doing, Jason. And that led to writing for Huffington Post. That led to writing for Media Bistro, writing for different types of national publications. And then which led to me also doing consulting in the film and television space and marketing in the film and television space. So all these different sort of mini careers along the way kind of led me to where I'm at right now, which is producing projects. I'm working on a project right now I'm really excited about. You and I met about a project I was producing, and we're still making it happen. We are, one way or another. Soon enough. So I'm
just
definitely
to add another factor into all of this, COVID-19, and we'll see how that changes the plan of trying to move forward with that. But we will prevail. We'll make it work.
Maybe Emma will be dying of COVID instead. Oh, it was in poor taste. I shouldn't have said that, but why not?
It's a little too soon. But then again, the stuff I've seen on TikTok, that's like Disneyland compared to what happens over there.
Exactly. If you're
Yeah.
gonna, it's better to laugh than to cry. So
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, just working on that, and everything has led me. The skills I learned from being a writer or being a casting director's assistant or working in marketing, working with these different high profile people and interviews, it all led me to where I am today. The skills I've learned along the way, even if it's just talking to people or meeting people, learning sort of the emotional intelligence
Yeah.
skills you learn, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
So,
EQ is so vital, so vital. I remember
mhm.
taking a class in one of the courses that I had in business school. There was a whole chapter on that, and I ended up doing self research and self education beyond just that one chapter. I thought it was fascinating. Those soft skills are essential.
Yeah, you're just amazing. I mean, when we first met, you were finishing up your graduate degree, I believe, or no, you were finishing up
Bachelor's.
your bachelor's
Hmm.
degree. You were touring or something. You were auditioning.
Yeah,
You were writing songs
it's
and
ridiculous.
traveling all over the place and doing this and that. So I mean, you're just a dynamo.
Hey, I'm trying to keep up with you, my friend. You've
Okay.
got
I
quite the list of credits.
yeah. I pace myself though. I pace myself along the way. I definitely take my naps. I've learned to not burn myself out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to learn that in my mid-20s.
Hmm. Hmm. It's a
Difference
good time to
between
learn.
yeah, there's a difference between that and 18 for some reason. It's weird.
Well, you started your career though way earlier than most everyone else, so you're already, you're practically a 40-year-old, in terms of career.
Perhaps. Some days I feel like a 5-year-old. Actually, most of the time I feel like a 5-year-old. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing half the time. I want to dive into your creative process
Sure,
and
sure.
influences,
Hmm.
kind of related, perhaps not really, but in some ways I think they are. Who were some of your major influences when you first started out, and did you model their creative processes? Did you come up with eventually you find your own path, but I'm just curious how that happened for you.
I think as a writer, I think my influences were definitely the children's books I would read as a kid.
Hmm.
Um, Everything from Indian in a Cupboard to um, Amelia Bedelia to all these different things that really kind of gave me inspiration and excitement about writing.
Right.
So that thing initially was that, and then later on, as I started doing more film and television stuff, I think it was more just sort of the greats, the Steven Spielbergs of the world,
Right.
Spike Lee's, the people like that are just really exceptional at what they do, and I think that kind of really inspired me. And then in terms of creating my own process, it's been I always had an instinct for writing at a very early age that was recognized by grown adults.
Mm.
And I found mentors along the way who maybe I didn't recognize were mentors at the time, who really taught me little things here and there, coached me in different ways about my writing process. And they allowed me at the age of, I think, 17, I was critiquing scripts from people who have been writing for decades because I had a certain instinct about like what felt right and what worked and what didn't work. And I belonged to the screenwriting group when I lived in Nevada, and there were so many great writers who were veterans who just taught me a lot of stuff that I use to this day. And then just I'm always evolving my process along the way. I think I pretty much have it down to the way that I am able to do it now. But I can always learn something. And the thing is, just like there were older people who entrusted me with their work and learned from me, I learned from people who are younger than me, people who are older than me, people who don't even come from a creative background, and I'm able to kind of take everything I learned from people and create some sort of process to make what I try to be. try to create as masterpieces,
Right.
one way or another. So
Now do you so walk me through like perhaps one of the novels that you've written or your usual format. Do you start with the end in mind, or is it more of you just kind of feel something, or you have some character that you want to write about, and things kind of just you explore along the way. You literally start on page one, or do you kind of see the whole picture?
I definitely see the whole picture. I know what's going to
Wow.
happen by the end. I may not know how we're going to get there, but I know that the end, this such and such is going to happen. So I definitely have. Sometimes it's a great character that will add on top of it. I write in layers, so I might start out with the typical hero's journey structure, and then on top of that, I might add in some great characters. I might add in twists. I kind of write, I kind of stack it, that
Now
sort of thing. It doesn't just.
here's journey. Is that how many? Is that 12 degrees? 12 what is that? 10 or 12? Not that it
I
matters.
don't.
I remember reading about that at some point. I studied that format.
hmm I don't know how many steps are in it. It's a typical three-act structure, though.
Okay.
But it's basically something like this, and I'm sure there's gonna be writers who are listening to this who are like, "That's not how it goes," but this is the way I see it. Life is normal for this character,
Right. Now, yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Yep.
until something happens that changes their life forever, and then they have the first call to action to be able to solve this problem or take this mission on, and they refuse that mission, and then they have a second call which they have no other choice but to accept it. They have to take this, and from
Right.
that point on there's no turning back. And then basically they try and fail, try and fail. At some point they're all is lost and looks like they cannot get anything done, and that sort of thing, and they pick themselves by their own bootstraps, and they get enough courage to be able to finally face off with the antagonist, and usually they'll win or they'll lose and they'll learn something. That's kind of in a nutshell how it goes.
That's right.
So
Yeah. Now I
yeah,
remember.
I know. Yeah, it starts out like that for me. Just to have something, and I could write that in like 10, 15 minutes, the base structure of that, and then just layer on top of it, layers and layers and layers until I have, and then at some point you just kind of throw it out and say, you know what, I have a map, but let me just explore this character. Just like in the case of the book Sing to Me,
Hmm.
those characters just start talking to each other. And I'm like, you know what? Just have your conversations and I will just dictate what you're saying. But at the same time, I knew the structure of basically where it was going to go.
What I love about your writing is both in script and in novel format is the details in the dialogue.
hmm
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, well, you take so because I think it can go either way with a production or an artistic expression where you like I got into Better Call Saul because they had the fourth season that came
No,
out.
I
So
love it. We're watching it now. We're watching the
oh,
fifth season now.
cool, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, perfect segue there for an example. Then it's a very trite script. I think that's the right word. It's just very the wording is very short. A lot
hmm
happens
hmm
that is without being said.
hmm
Where you take somebody with the style of Sing to Me that you may have written in, and I don't know enough of your work yet to really pin this on you. I don't want to pigeonhole you to this, but when things are wordy, usually they're wordy, but the way that you frame your dialogue, it's very capturing, and often I don't see that often. And when I read Sing to Me, I just couldn't stop reading it because
Well,
even though
thank you.
these characters are having all this dialogue, and yeah, it's about just stuff, sitting at the
hmm
diner and the
hmm
banter, like the banter. I think that's really what I'm trying to get at. The banter is very intriguing. It's very relatable, and I was just curious how that came about for you. Or is that just your? It's probably natural.
I think that in that case, the characters had such strong personalities that you just let them talk to each other and see what
Yeah.
they're going to say. You need
Yeah.
to go back through it. Sometimes you have to like, creatively change things a little bit to make the story go along, or you want to fit in certain things that need to go uh, in the dialogue in order to push the plot along. But in that case, I mean, the characters are just such great characters. I just let them talk, and I always like the kind of oil and vinegar relationships. I love that old dynamic of classic films. Like the Humphrey Bogart type of, Catherine Hepburn type of,
Hmm.
feel. I like that. I like that dynamic of two characters who are seemingly opposite, and all the subtext that goes underneath it. So it's not all on the
Subtext.
surface. Yeah.
Subtext. That's it. That's what I was kind of diving for right there, reaching for. By the
Mhm.
way, I finished Mad Men, so thank you for that.
Oh, you
I,
did? Okay, good.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if you recommended it originally or if I just started it and we talked about it at the last when
Mhm.
we last met.
Mhm.
Uh, but phenomenal. Like just
It's great. Yeah,
uh,
that's just brilliant. Yeah,
that ending
brilliant.
really. The ending was a little. I didn't see that coming. It was kind
Hmm.
of. It's a little open ended, but
Hmm.
the whole series is fantastic.
I don't like it when they leave things open. Personally, I'm like,
Me
please
neither.
wrap it up.
Me
We
neither.
just invested, years perhaps in watching a series. The least you can do for us is wrap it up enough that we have no lingering questions.
Right.
If
Right.
we can write, a sequel in our head, that's fine. But I personally can't stand it
But then
when they
then
don't,
again, that character, Donald Dre. It's just kind of like
yeah.
it kind of makes sense though, because Don just
Hmm.
like he'll just be a freight train through any situation and just kind of it's like a new phase for him, and you see him go through all those phases throughout the. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling this for anybody, but you see him go through all those phases throughout the seasons, the divorce, the second divorce,
Hmm.
and all the women, and it's like the career and everything falls apart, everything gets built back up, falls apart back again. Just like caught like the such highs and lows with him. There's like no so
Yeah, it's such a great character. I mean, I think the best television, or I should say the best writing right now, I think is happening in television. I think maybe we've said that.
yeah.
We don't see the great roles that we like to see in film as much as we
Hmm.
do in television. I mean, I'm watching the third season of Ozark. Have you seen that yet?
Well, I saw it on the Netflix homepage.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think that you might,
I'm gonna
if you
check it
like,
out. Yeah.
yeah, that might be one of your next ones. I think it's if you like Breaking Bad, you'll definitely like the Ozark. I think it's
Oh
called the
well,
Ozark and
yeah.
Ozark.
I
Yeah.
mean, Breaking Bad. See that I got in an argument. Well, it wasn't an argument, but it kind of was
Hmm.
to a certain. It wasn't an argument. It was just like this really heated discussion about like, oh, Breaking Bad was a perfect ending. That was my opinion. And
Uh
then
huh.
my bass player at the time, ex bass player, he was saying, no, they should have ended it at season 4 with when Gus got blown up. Like that should have been the end. Like I was like, no, like it was so poetic. Like
Uh
Walter
huh.
White going out, we see him dead. Like that's again, like hopefully the show's been out forever. Hopefully I'm not spoiling this for anybody, but
Hmm.
like
Well, then they
that's
kind
a
of leave the question wondering, and I still wonder, even after seeing the 2 hour movie that follows it, is he really dead? I was in my heart of hearts.
really wait, I haven't seen the
Well,
movie.
okay, there's a movie too on Netflix that has Jesse Pinkman.
So
It's all like
that's
his
right.
little
It's
guy.
about Jesse. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, my conspiracy theory is somehow he, Walter survived what happens in the end, and he has escaped, and he's under a different name, and he's got a cure for his cancer, and somehow they're gonna bring him back, and I mean that's what I want to believe. So that's my
Yeah,
little fan fiction.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's your opinion between the Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul dynamic? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, um, I I watched the first 4 episodes or so, and I couldn't get into it until we started watching it again from scratch. And we actually watched I think from the first season all the way through the last season of Breaking Bad, and then jumped right into Better Call Saul, and I'm enjoying it so much more. In fact, we're on the 5th season of it now. I think it's 5th or 4th season, whatever the latest one is.
Fourth.
Is it 4th? Okay,
Yeah.
whatever the latest one is, we're on it, and we're really, really enjoying it all the way through. It's just so good. It's a great character. It's just a great character, and
yeah,
this little spinoff.
The older brother, like that whole dynamic. I'm curious to see if Vince Gilligan, does he write the script, or do they have multiple?
I don't know if he wrote Better Call Saul or if he's just the creator, or if he's just, I don't know what's going on, but his stamp is definitely on it.
Maybe an EP or something.
Yeah, I'm sure he's involved.
I think Bob Odenkirk is the producer.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
they're all insane. Ray, I mean, she's insane. The performances, so believable.
Yeah, the performances. The dialogue for Saul Goodman is just phenomenal.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you got into the part where he's hustling in the parking lot of the.
Oh yeah, you mean for the cell phone thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just great. Did you see the biker gang scene yet?
Yeah, that was great.
That's just great. I mean, it's just,
that was great.
It's so great.
But you know what though? Every time and this has been my experience with dealing with that kind of biker crowd too, is that they're tough on the outside, but they're really nice people.
Right.
But I've seen that cliche so many times in TV shows and movies. I would kind of hope maybe this time they will live up to their badass personality. But
maybe it's time for you to develop a script on that.
Exactly. Something like that. Yeah. My hands are full though with what I'm working on right now, so I don't think I'm doing that.
Something to think about down the road,
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about acting real quick, because I remember seeing your reel at one point, and you've been in the scene.
Did you really?
Somehow. I don't remember how it was. It was probably when I did show prep. I actually prepped for this 3 months ago because I was going to come down to Jersey when I was in New York. And then our car literally, like the axle was basically ready to explode.
Wow.
So, so we had to get it fixed. And, that's when I said, like, we couldn't make it that day. But I remember doing some prep, and I found somewhere deep on YouTube, there was some reel that you had up. And it was,
oh my God.
It was good. Like, it was quality. I was like, oh man, he acts too.
When I was a teenager, it was like when I was like 14 years old, right?
Pretty much. It was like something back in whatever, like cassette time frame or.
Yeah, when I was literally 14 years old. I think it has like my first commercial on there when I was literally 14. I was like, that was fun. I enjoyed acting though. I enjoyed I took these great acting classes when I was about 24, 25, 26. And I really, really enjoyed the process. I learned so much. And that was actually, I took it even while I was being a casting director's assistant at one point. And then I think I took it again. I took it before that. Yes, I took it when I was about 21, acting classes. And I took it again when I was about 24. About 24 years old. I really enjoyed it. It was just fun. It just not something I want to pursue. I didn't really want to be an actor, but I really enjoyed. It was fun, and I think it's helped me deal with actors, understand what they're going through and the preparation that's involved and that sort of thing. Hope that stays buried on YouTube. I should find it and report it.
Well, you'd be reporting yourself. I think it was on your
was
YouTube
it on my
channel.
I have this other YouTube channel somewhere. I don't even have the password.
I'm telling you, it's like it was in the deep web of YouTube.
I will find it. I will burn it.
You're working with a lot of computer generated narrative and storytelling. What's going on with that? Because I see that constantly on your social media.
Well, I've had the kind of instinct to go in that direction of animated but more photorealistic animation for quite some time. Something told me I need to move in that direction. And now with what's going on globally, I think this becomes even more important.
Right. It's more prevalent.
Um, yeah, definitely. I think that what I'm working on right now is a story actually I've had for the last 25 years or so, in one form or another, that takes place in West Africa. And it's sort of what I would call now like an African Game of Thrones type of story.
Really? Wow.
So yeah, so what I'm doing right now is just the storyboards and animatics. So I can figure out the story, get the story straightened out before I go to the next step or the last step of making it photorealistic. There's so many great animators out there right now, and the capabilities of making something look pretty close to real is available right now. And there's so many great groups on Facebook of just talented people all over the world who've already achieved this for next to nothing.
Mm.
They put the time into it to learn it, but in terms of cost, it doesn't cost anything anymore. The software, most of which is free or next to free nowadays.
Is that open
So
source then, some of it?
some of it, yeah, but there's a great gaming software, gaming engine called Unreal Engine, which I'm sure many people are familiar with Fortnite. It's,
Yeah.
it's owned by the same company.
Okay.
It's called Epic, which also owns Unreal Engine, and a lot of video games are kind of or use their engine. Um, and then a lot of recently, they're doing a lot of virtual production. So recently, the new Star Wars television show that's on right now on Disney Plus. What's it called? Mandalorian or something like that. I have no idea. I haven't watched it yet. I heard it's great. Anyway, all of that, even the exterior shots are shot on a set. And instead of using green screen, what they use is these gigantic LED um, TV screens, basically. And they run Unreal Engine, and everywhere the camera goes, the background goes with it.
Wow.
And they use the lighting from, let's say there's a sunny scene that's, a really bright scene that's on these LED panels. That natural lighting goes on the actors. So they don't have to worry about overlighting it. They don't have to worry about going back and doing the green screen, compositing, all that sort of thing. So they're using this software, this Unreal Engine gaming engine software. So I can get really geek. I can just geek out about this kind of stuff, and I don't want to bore everybody who's listening and watching this. But I'm just really excited about it. I've been excited about it for quite some time. I've been learning it the last few years. The capabilities are endless. I think it's going to be the wave of not only the future but of the present. I think it opens opportunities for people who otherwise wouldn't have it. Actors who maybe physically don't look the part but can do the voice or do the acting will be able to do that now. It's a great, wonderful thing that creates jobs, and yeah, there's some jobs that will no longer be necessary, but for the most part, it creates jobs and creates opportunities and levels a playing field for people who you can be in some place in India or in Ukraine or in the North Pole. And if you have this software, you can compete against a major studio in terms of the quality of the work. It's all about the storytelling now. It's not about the finances, it's not about the
Mm.
funding, it's not about even having an A-lister. I mean, that's one thing I think that Netflix has proven, that you don't necessarily have to have an A-list star. Most of the most popular television shows didn't have stars. They weren't stars before the shows became popular. So it's about the story and the storytelling and the characters you create. It's about what you bring to the screen. So that's what's great about what's happening right now, and that I'm really excited about.
You say storytelling, and I had that actually as a bullet point. I may have brought it up inadvertently earlier, but yes, storytelling is all. It's the same as songwriting. If you don't have a song, it doesn't matter what production you throw at it. If it's not going to engage people just as a song, just as an acoustic and vocal, or piano and vocal, or whatever instrument and vocal, good luck. You know.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. And your storytelling, uh, how did you ever? Do you have any struggles that you overcame, and what were they, perhaps, or is there something that you always try to keep in check for yourself personally? Um, I know it's kind of like a ridiculous question. It just came to me though. I
But
was just curious.
life struggles in general.
Well, now just like developing stories,
Mhm.
maybe writer's block, but I don't want to call it writer's block. It's just like certain certain challenges that may occur when trying to write, or you may have it all in your head, but trying to get it down on paper.
I think that I never really had writer's block. What I had was too many ideas block, where
Ah,
I, yeah, I had so many ideas, like which one should I work on, and I would stop in the middle of a project
I
thinking,
resonate
oh,
with that big time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I was able to fix it, and I'll tell you how in a moment. But
sure.
I went through this struggle of going from project to project to project, not necessarily even completing them or not putting my passion to all of it to fruition. And I see along the way I was doing many things that would later on become successful and be a big wave. Had I stuck with those things, then I would be a gazillionaire by now. But I wasn't. I have great intuition about what's going to be the next thing or what
Mm,
feels right, and I wasn't sticking with it.
mm,
Um, and the reason why I was doing that on some level, I think, was uh, economically. I thought, well, I should be working on something that's going to sell. This a small idea I have, which I'm passionate about. I can't do it because no one's going to want to read it or no one's going to want to watch it or whatever. So I need to put my energy into something that's going to sell, and then I work on something that's going to sell, and I would stop because it's so draining to work on something you're not passionate about. You and I talked about this when we had a coffee in
yeah,
Jersey a few
yeah.
months back, and so I would go through that and I would stop it. So I recently had a coaching session with a producer named Jeff Gomez, who does transmedia production. So they take different worlds like Avatar and Men in Black and whatnot, and they create kind of extra content for them online and other, you know, different platforms and different mediums. And he was able to help me find out why I was having a problem on a psychological level, and then somehow magically disappeared from that point on. Knock on whatever this is. Knock on fake
Yeah.
background. Um, but what it came down to is he said, in a nutshell, everyone between the ages, let's say, I think he said 3 and 5, has had some kind of major trauma in their life,
Mm,
and their story resonates from that. Their story, their origin story, just like Spider-Man and Batman and Superman, they all have an origin story, starts from that moment. And he asked me what that moment was, and for me, it was a moment when um, my dad was obsessed with black basketball, so he would just make that his one and only priority. So he would forego all of his family responsibilities to go play with his friends. And on this particular moment, I remembered him leaving me in the car, locking the car, and I could watch him. I was watching him play basketball with his friends, and I'm thinking as a 3-year-old, like, God, why can't I get out of this car? And why won't Daddy play with me? That kind of thing. That story, for whatever reason, made
mm.
me think that I was not important enough for my dad. And if I could just be important enough, then maybe he would love me. Maybe he would stay with me. Maybe he would whatever. And that story resonated with me throughout my entire uh, romantic life, but also um, my career, because I thought, like, if I could just be important enough, I could just create a story that's big enough and whatever enough that people will like me, then people will pay attention to me, then I'll be important enough for people to return phone calls and whatnot. So let me pick a project that's going to do well, because if I don't, then I'm not going to be important enough. And he helped through the conversation to eliminate that need and to change my story to a different story, so that I realized that I already was important enough. Then my mission is to help other people realize they're important enough, and that the products that I choose need to be stuff that I'm personally passionate about, because my validation is no longer um, from what other people think or whatever people whether they like my product or not. I had to do stuff I was passionate about, because that's why I was put here on earth. So I chose the project I'm most passionate about, whether it makes money or not. Because fortunately, I'm in a position where I'm good, you know. And I know that not everybody is like that, but they can certainly work on what they're passionate about while they're working their day job, even if it's an hour or two. If all they just need to stop playing games, stop watching Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
stop watching the baseball game, stop, doing all this stuff. If you start monitoring and auditing how much time you have really during the day, especially now in the situation we're at, you realize you have a lot of time that you can use to work on what you're truly passionate about. And we waste a lot of time that can be used on that. So I learned from this conversation with Jeff Gomez to focus on what I was passionate about. And I decided I thought to myself, what's the one project that if I left this earth, I'd want a legacy? This would be my legacy. And it was this African project that it's been in my head for a long time. And I've kind of visited and let go and visited and let go. And it was this one project because in this world, I was created this African, mythological world. All the stories I'm passionate about could be infused in it in one form or another. I could do everything I wanted to do in this one project. So that helped me a lot. And I don't know if that would help you or what your origin story is, but if you can find out why you feel the need to, I don't know if you're dumping a project or if you're not finishing it or whatever the case is, you can find out why. Why am I doing this? Why do I need to do that? Once you find out what that reason is, why, and realize and create a different story for yourself, that really helps a lot. And it's so like cliche and like like an episode of Oprah or something like that, but but it really worked like magic. I mean, it really was life changing. Spending 1 hour with Jeff Gomez, just talking to him, just like you and I are talking.
It's funny that you bring that up because I've actually majorly gone through some audits on myself in the last, especially since this new year. And it's really strange that you bring that up because I have, and yeah, just re-looking at things, re-looking at situations and past situations, and when did you have this meeting with him? Was that recent or was that?
I had this meeting with him. I want to say either November or December.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's been pretty recent. Yeah, and he's just an amazing guy. He actually has a coaching service you guys could look up. His company's called Starlight Runner Entertainment, and you can Google it. And he's got a coaching service there. So if anyone wants coaching, I think he's offering really discounted rates right now because he's helping people who are going through this change right now globally.
Right.
And he just wants to be able to help as many people as possible. And this is a guy who does not have the time to do this stuff. He's so busy. He's working on Spielberg projects and I mean major stuff. And he does this because it helps so many people, but he says it also helps him by helping other people too.
Right. When he was going through that exercise with you, or whenever you guys were having this discussion, how difficult was it for you to pinpoint that one trauma? Because I'm sure there's more than just that. Because when I think about stuff during that time frame in my life, there were multiple things going on, and it just makes you think. I was just curious to see how was it that one instant or that one incident stood out more than the others?
I think it was just the fact that my parents divorced at that time.
Okay.
And just thinking that, half the time, or maybe not half the time, but I was with my dad. The other, most of the time was with my mom. And the times I treasured with my dad. My dad, when dad was around, he was a great dad, but he married too young. I think he was not ready to be a dad quite yet, and that affected me. So I think it was just like the thing that feel, and you could try different ones. Like, maybe let's say you have 3 things in particular that really happened traumatically. Go down that path and see maybe it wasn't this one. Like, it was more like, it was more like this thing that really affected me to this day. And it's so funny that life is like domino, it's a sort of domino effect, this small little event.
Yes.
Which for a 3-year-old was very traumatic.
Is it like
affected me.
the butterfly effect, perhaps a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, if that hadn't happened, I
Who
wouldn't
knows?
be where yeah, I mean, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. Who knows?
So it served its purpose. But what he said was something to the fact that, you know, you're no longer a 3-year-old. If the 3-year-old was doing what he needed to do to get daddy's attention at that time, you don't need to you're not the 3-year-old anymore. You gotta recreate
Right,
your own
right,
story now, you know?
right.
And that just really helped me because it was not like if you ask yourself as a creative person, why am I doing this? Like,
Yes.
why am I really the good and reason, the bad. I thought that the reason I was doing this, and I think it's true today, but was I was just yeah, I'm passionate about this, but I want to change the world in a positive way through my stories. I want to show people characters that they normally wouldn't necessarily even like, and they grow to like and love these people, and they go on this emotional journey. And so the next time they run across somebody who's like that, who maybe they would normally scoff at, now they look at them differently, you know.
Right.
And so that was my thing, but I realized I wanted so much more. I wanted to be validated.
Yeah.
When I didn't get 100 reviews of my books, or I got this and that, you know, criticized about my writing, I took it very personally because it was, which a lot of I think artists do, but I took it very personally. Like you are saying to me that I'm not important was the message I was getting, and that's not what they were saying at all necessarily, but that's the way I was
Right. Right.
interpreting it. So it all
Right.
it all came back to this one moment. So I think that I would encourage anybody to look, just like you said, even kind of, auditing yourself, just as an artist. I mean, there's so much great material from that moment. Whether you're
Yeah.
a songwriter or you're a novelist or a scriptwriter or painter, just from finding out those moments and finding out like how that affected you. Um, so yeah, I mean, I,
And
I, I encourage it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it even goes beyond that age frame. There might be
Hmm.
there because they I've always heard about this psychologically. Like there's reoccurring themes in one's life
Yeah.
where there's and I've seen it actually. Believe it or not, you'll probably crack up with this. I don't know if you've heard of. They've been around for years, but this and when I say the name, if you know them, you'll probably smirk. But Real Social Dynamics, have you heard of that
No.
platform before?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. No.
They there's definitely mixed reviews out there. They basically built an entire empire and franchise 20 years ago, um, teaching guys how to pick up, like literally
Okay. Okay.
teaching guys how to pick up women or whatever orientation, doesn't really matter. But the whole point is they actually really they've got some serious insight and they go into the psychology of it. And even like one of the things in general is if you're gaming for a mate or a spouse, or you're gaming for life in general, or you're gaming for the next job or the next promotion or whatever, like it's an inner game. It really has nothing to do with the exterior. It's really the interior that matters. And from that, drawing that state from within and certain aspects to that whole game, it really kind of opens your eyes up to some things. So from a psychological perspective, they always talked about, and some of the folks involved with them, they always talked about reoccurring themes and how
Hmm.
you'll see this self-sabotage cycle over and over and over again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And until you realize why, or you're aware, you're self-aware of why that is, it'll just keep happening.
Yeah, people do, especially with relationships. People will, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships, people they'll sort of recreate that
Right.
scenario again and again and again and again. Well, I have a friend of mine, and she's like, "Why can't I meet the right kind of guy?" And like, I said to her the other day, you know, you're asking the wrong question. You need to start asking yourself, why is it so easy for me to meet the right guy? Just by
Hmm.
asking yourself the right question, your
Hmm.
brain goes back and like, oh, actually, I've met some really nice guys. Well, I may not have worked out, but they were great guys. You know, by asking yourself the right question, you start
Hmm.
reframing your whole life.
The frame, and that was
Hmm.
something else that they've talked about.
Hmm.
Frame, framing, and
Hmm.
uh it's so essential. Just change for and for me personally, because for years I saw this, and if I look at tapes of myself years ago, it was definitely a different frame.
Right. Yeah.
I was on stage trying to perfect what I was doing and trying to get better at my craft. You can blatantly see it, and only within really the last few years, um, after I got past my 10,000 hours on guitar, because I already had it with drums, I already had it with other aspects of my career, but guitar started a little bit later for me, and then I was able to just kind of relax and forget about it. Uh, and then it's really about the people. It's really about having that connection. And that's the other thing, and you'll probably agree with me with this as well. I would think is that what you're doing, it's really not what you're doing that's the ultimate goal or the absolution of it all. I find that the best artists, there's something going on behind the scenes, or there's some other motivating factor besides the art itself, and that's why it's so good. Like
Hmm.
Like Van Halen comes to mind. David Lee Roth. He saw things in the sense of just being totally free and total just having that charismatic personality, and it really and it didn't matter about the vocals for him, yet he
Hmm.
went platinum 10, 20, 30 times with their records. So he was like facilitating this event. That's really what he
Hmm.
was doing. He really wasn't singing, and there's so many times where you see that, and uh,
That
I don't
subtle shade.
right. Like I don't know if you have any thoughts on any
I
of
can
this,
tell
but
your vocal isn't your focus right now in this moment. Yeah, I think for me in terms of songs, to me, when I hear the story behind the song,
mm,
that really there's some great video series right now where they talk about like how what was inspiration for this song. Um, I think it's Creed, the old group Creed.
yeah.
What's the lead character or the lead? I'm sorry, the lead singer's name?
Oh, Scott Stapp.
Yeah, Scott. So I know he has some other band now, but he had that song. What is his most famous song? The one was a pop song.
Well, there's they had a few with Arms Wide Open.
Yeah, with arms. That's what it was. With arms
Okay.
right open. So when I heard the story behind that was about a sign and whatnot, I was like, wow. Like I mean, I like the song anyway to begin with, but when I heard that,
Is that about his son?
it was something to do with the sun, from what I remember. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But the story behind, I remember watching it on VH1 or something like that. The story behind it, I was like, wow. I mean, I looked at it and listened to it in a whole other light.
Right.
When I realized the lyrics that he was singing was about something completely different. That story that goes, it's the context that goes into it. It's that subplot we talked about with
Yes.
scripts. That story behind that song made me even more attracted to that song. So I think that in that way, like you said, it's not always about the vocals or whatever. It's about something bigger than that, bigger than
Right.
just performing on stage or making money or whatever. It's about something deeper, and people, I think, they can sense that.
Yeah, yeah, and I keep seeing that over and over again, like the real greats, the real legacy artists, like Jim Morrison, for example. That's another. I mean, again, these are biased influences of mine, but
Mhm.
again, he was into his shaman thing, and he was into that facilitating kind of like spiritual-esque process, and the whole band was on the same accord for the most
Mhm.
part. I mean, he was far gone at some point, unfortunately, and
Yeah, that's true.
it
Yes.
kind of bit him in the end. But
Right.
I see that time and time again, and to be in my mid-20s, and at least now I'm finally coming to reach that point of enlightenment that's really egotistical, and I'm not going to say that. I'm just kind of glad that I'm actually thinking in those terms now, because
Mhm.
there's guys that hit their 30s, hit their 40s, hit their 50s, they still aren't thinking in those terms, and it's
Mhm.
it's a shame.
Well, you're ahead of your time, and you're also um, you're obviously way more mature than most guys who are your age, um, and you've had whole other careers before you are right now. So you have a head start. You started. You probably had really your parents were probably really supportive from the very beginning of your career, and that's an awesome thing. So now, so imagine where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and you're going to be, on the stage of,
Hopefully not self-destruct.
yeah, the virtual Grammys or whatever we have, in the next
You're gonna
few years.
receive it from NASA or something on the moon.
Yeah,
At that
exactly.
point, maybe that'll be nice.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that you'll be so much further than people who are twice as old as you, and you were a young prodigy, a music prodigy. So
Well,
that's going to give you even more of a head start than most people.
I always tell everybody this. There's always some 7-year-old Chinese girl who will kick your ass.
That's true. That's true.
So somewhere she's out there, or
That's true.
he's out there. It doesn't really matter, but they're out there, man. There's some 7-year-old that will just kick your ass at whatever
Right.
instrument it is that you play, and you've been
That's
on it
true.
for 50 years, and they still blow you out. Um, I've got a couple of bullet points here left, and we'll kind of wrap up. But and we've talked about it a little bit throughout this interview. But COVID-19,
Mhm.
just your thoughts a little bit more. I kind of ask everybody this question nowadays because it's why not? Um, you're in a hot spot area for sure. Uh, where are we going from here? What are your thoughts?
Wow. I mean, I definitely have seen people close to me that are affected by it. I have a great uncle who just passed away from it. He was an older gentleman
I'm
in his
sorry to hear that.
90s. Yeah, wonderful guy. Lived in the Bronx.
Yeah.
There's other people close to me that have it. Actually, I have a couple friends who actually had it. They're young. They're about your age, actually. But they were, because they're young and everything. They're fine. They had a couple bad days. He said, but other than that, they're good. Um, so I'm seeing how it's affecting, and I have so many friends all over the world. I'm asking them constantly whether they're from Eastern Europe or India
Hmm.
or Bangladesh or the Philippines or Canada or Central America, like how it's affecting them, and it's affecting the whole world. I love the idea. Billy Porter had an interview recently in the Hollywood Reporter, I believe, where he called this period in our history as a global reset. I
Yes.
love that idea. I love that idea.
Yes.
Um, Unfortunately, it's at the cost of so many lives, not just the physical lives being lost, but the, the the changes that we'll see over economically, and that will hit us globally. Unfortunately, at the cost of that. But when we come out of it, and we'll come out stronger. We'll come out better. We'll come out changed in a good way.
What do you
And
think it's going to look like personally? Like, what do you really think? Have you projected this? Have you extrapolated to a certain degree? I mean, everybody's thinking about it, but
yeah, I think they'll come up with some kind of medication treatment, whatever, that'll be distributed within the United States within the next 6 months, um, to the majority of the people. I think economically, we'll get back to where we were before all this within a couple of years. It's going to be a slow,
wow,
steady uh,
wow,
change, though. I mean, we're gonna see some interesting things happening in the next few months or whatnot, but
yeah,
it'll change the way the remote workers are. That could be a prevalent thing as we come out of it, as corporations start to see, wow, we can actually run our corporation without these gigantic buildings.
yeah, yeah,
And there'll be people who realize, you know what, this whole remote working thing does not work for me. I
right,
need real people,
right,
and and so it's going to be like, but also look what it's doing to the relationships. If you are in the house with your parents or with a romantic interest, you are in a boiling pot, a pressure cooker, and if you can make it through this, you can make it through anything.
yeah,
So all that tension and the passion and the whatever is just, you're in it. And so
yeah,
you really get to find out. It's a time for us to find out about ourselves. For many of us that we're working constantly, we're running away from the emotions and experiences of our past. Now we have no other choice but to sit still, and face the things that we had been running away from, the psychological issues, the traumas from the past. We have to face it in this period when you're stuck at home. So this is really hard for people who have not been isolated before, who need that constant interaction. That's really challenging. My heart goes out for those people.
Yeah.
I fortunately have been preparing for this in a sense that I've been a remote worker for 12 years or so. I was in Costa Rica for 10 years, where I was pretty much isolated for the most part. So this is not that different for me.
Yeah.
But for those like my partner who are used to constantly dealing with people, this is really, really challenging for them.
Yeah. Well,
And my heart,
it's
yeah.
you and I both, because I'm an only child, and doing the music production thing for so many years. It's like there's these funny memes out there about, oh, music producer, uh, been training for COVID-19 since the beginning.
True.
It's so true though. It's like
It's true. It's true. It's true. Same thing with video editors, many writers.
writers. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Many people are used to this, but there's many people who aren't. And my heart goes out to those kind of people because this is really hard for them. This not everyone's made like you and I. And some people need that constant interaction, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's who they are. So for those people, it's really, really hard for them. And I try to be there for those kind of people as much as I possibly can. Um, because it's really hard for them. Not everyone's made built for this. So, but for those who come out the other end, will come out stronger, will learn something about themselves. I do think I hope that brings us together globally more. I think the infrastructure for internet will be, the need for it will be even more important as we see that we need strong, electrical and internet
Hmm.
infrastructure in this country and the world. There's a lot of good that will come out of this at the end, just to make it through. That's it. It's one day
Yeah.
at a time. For me, it's about doing daily meditation. It's about doing this technique called EFT, which is emotional
Hmm.
freedom technique. That's fantastic. It's about prayer. If you're a religious person or a spiritual person, it's about if you need help with a therapist and talking to a counselor. It's about getting your head straight,
Yeah.
because that without that, you know, I don't want to use
I
the word, but you're stuck. Let's put it that way.
I right. Um, I I said right before this started, I said that this is going to be a reset. It's
Mhm.
interesting to hear the other guys say that as well. I was going to ask you the EFT regiment, and I was curious to hear a little bit more about that, and also meditate. I had meditation written down here just for general creative standpoint, but uh, yeah, if you could expand on that for a little bit.
Sure. I mean, let's start with meditation. There's a great app called Sync Tuition, which I've been using. So for those who have difficulty sitting still, or say I can't meditate, it's just, if you can imagine, 3D surround sound on steroids, and you just hear all these sounds and whispering and talking and music playing. And today I was listening to one where it sounded like someone was lighting a match in my left ear, then behind me, and you
Wow.
just listen to it, and it really helps you focus, because all this energy we spend analyzing and thinking and worrying is real energy. And so if you're just able to center it, that's energy you can use to heal,
Right.
to feel better,
Right.
to help people to feel great. So that helps. And then in terms of EFT, if for those who are not familiar with it, it's basically, if you can imagine, like um, acupressure for emotions. So you're tapping on different parts of your body, using your face, as you are feeling those strong emotions, and it basically interrupts the not the chi, but basically the energy centers. So
Chakra.
the chakras, I forgot what they call it, the meridian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know why it just works. Sometimes instantaneously, sometimes it takes a couple of hours, sometimes it takes a few days for it to clear away. But if you have any type of anxiety, if you're worried a lot, if you're having any type of deep depression, it can definitely be used as a tool. It's free. You can go on YouTube and find videos on how to do it, actually go through kind of virtual sessions. And there's actually practitioners who will do it with you. I know with some of the childhood trauma I've experienced, I've worked with a practitioner in Israel named Alana Mickelson. She's great. She has a company called I think it's Option to Heal, OptiHeal,
Mm-hmm.
and she will do it with you. So yeah, I mean, it's a great tool to help you if you're going through any type of anxiety or depression or just worry. If you have, for example, you're getting ready to do a stage performance and you're really nervous, you can use it for that. If you're
Right.
having problems with talking to your boss, and you're getting really worked up about it, you want to release some of that emotional baggage, it works with that. It's an amazing tool. That with meditation and prayer for those of us who
Yeah.
have, religious beliefs or whatnot can really help a lot. And there's no cure all, there isn't, but it sure does make you feel better. In the
Right.
meantime,
Right.
it
Right.
really does. Yeah.
And it spawns off this point, which I've seen uh, it happen often now in my life, which is, the problem's not going to get fixed. You're just going to have to create in your mind the reality that the problem is no longer the problem.
Hmm.
And I find that meditation, prayer, letting things go, that's the ultimate. I think and that may be why we strive, like as perfectionists, that may be why we strive so much towards a certain goal, is because
Hmm.
that to us is more, because it's like, oh well, if I drop this, then what am I living for? Like, that's a
Right.
very scary thought.
Right.
you know
Yeah.
I
Who am I if I'm not writing or if I'm
Right, the
not
identity
playing?
and all of
Yeah.
that.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So it's like you finding a new reason why you're doing it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Exactly.
It's just charting those waters.
Yeah. And it's all fun. It's good. It's great to learn about yourself, especially as an artist,
Yeah.
to learn about like why am I this way? Why am I and also like just accepting yourself 100%, all your faults, all your strengths, all your eccentricities, all of it. Just like saying, you know what, this is me, and I'm not gonna adapt my personality for my friends,
Mm,
for the public, for my parents, for my grandparents. I'm just like, this is who I am. So you kind of exponentially become a better person anyway. But having to like change who you are is just a waste of time. I've learned. It's like I am who I am. Look, you don't like
right.
me, you don't like me. If you like me, great. Let's share this space together.
It's well said.
Yeah.
You've got some new product coming out. I don't know how much you're at liberty to talk about regarding it, but if you wanted to say a few
Sure. I'm
couple of
working
minutes.
on Yeah, I'm working on this African Game of Thrones type of story that had, in the oven for a while, but I'm going forward with it. I'm really excited about it. It's African elves, African fairies, African mermaids, African dwarves, all of these mythical creatures that we normally see in European-based fantasy existed in Africa as well, and
Mm,
often predated these. So it's just people didn't realize that. A lot of people haven't realized that there's stories there too. So we often see. I love a Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones just like anybody else, but it's just great to see that these other countries, countries in Africa, countries in Asia, countries in Australia. Well, not there's no country in Australia, but other countries, countries all over the world have their own version of these fantasy stories. So this particular one is and it's sort of a fictitious country in Africa, in West Africa, which is basically Nigeria, but it's like it's basically a fictitious one. And so it's kind of like the stories that come from that particular country, and but they're universal stories that no matter what color you are, what culture you are, that you'll enjoy and you'll be entertained by them with real. I saw things that I did not like about Game of Thrones, and I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I still am, except for the last season. But I saw things I would love to have them fixed, and I'm kind of putting that in my own project. Like, this is the way I would do it if I was them. This is how I would make it even better than it was before. So I'm able to put all my passion and all my stories and all my trauma and my joys into this world. And I'm really, really excited about growing the audience online first, and then going to pitch it to the big boys after that. So it'll be great.
That's cool. Future plans for you, and this is always an ongoing question on the show. Recently, it's been a little disrupted, but
Mhm.
you know, besides the new projects, I mean, just anything goes for that topic.
Future plans, when this is all over with, I really want to travel the world even more. I've been
Yeah.
wanting to go back to Europe for a while. I would like to go to Africa. I would like to go to Australia. I've been wanting to go to Australia since I was, uh, I don't know, 6 years old. So I think that that's what I'm really going to be focusing on once after the dust clears from the situation. Um, Other than that, just like living life and enjoying it. Meeting really cool people, hoping bringing some joy to people, affecting the world in a positive way, uplifting people, and having fun while I do it. That's my plan. And also getting more in shape. I have to look like you, Jason. I mean, do you? It's like I know you're like playing your guitar, writing your songs, doing everything else, but you must be working out like 24/7 because you're all ripped.
Well, I mean, I'm really not. I appreciate that. There's guys that would totally clean my clock. You just go on Instagram and hashtag shred or hashtag whatever. It's a joke, man. Those are the real savages. Like 6% body fat.
That's
It just
insane.
stupid. Yeah,
Yeah.
just stupid. Um, no, I'm not. I mean, uh, 3 to 4 times a week, heavy, and then maybe I love swimming season because then that's just cardio. That's cardio and a good pump.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't like just doing cardio to do cardio. Unless it's on the drum set and I'm playing metal double kick drum stuff, and it's really like you just get in there and full body workout. But yeah, I mean, and this whole situation with all the gyms closed, I
Yeah.
had an inclination last year to get a bunch of plates and a Olympic bar and a squat rack and the bench and all that. I just never did it because I was planning on moving to New York at the beginning of this
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
So it just didn't make any sense. Now I wish I kind of dropped the $500 at the time and just kind of go on scouring Craigslist. Now you can't even do that. But
Yeah. Yeah. We
I
have
mean,
some. We bought some. You know, some gym equipment, some yoga mats when I here at
right,
our fake conference call apartment.
right. I mean, a lot of it was just literally, hammering away. Yeah, working out every day. This was back like 20. I want to say 2012 to like 2016. And it was 4 years of really, like, if you look at pictures of me, I was telling somebody else about this on, I think my buddy Max in Nashville on his episode, because he's like 6 foot guitar player. He's like, I don't know, like 140, really, really skinny, um, which is good for that look. It looks good on stage. But he's like, yeah, like you're ripped, Jason. It's like, I mean, you look at pictures of me though back 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was a little odd because I was really pushing hard with the legs. I think I gained like 15 pounds of muscle in 3 or 4 months when I was in New York, like back in 20. It was ridiculous. I was just like squatting 2, 3 times a week. I had tendonitis in my upper body, so all I could do was like lower body, and it just started looking pear shaped. It was really strange.
Wow. Okay.
But that was kind of what helped, was build that lower body. And then when my upper body kind of, from resting for about a year, just kind of took over and was able to build a little bit more. But yeah, no, it was like, yeah, eating 5 times a day, trying to get a lot of sleep. That was all it was. It was schoolwork, recording music, auditioning, and going to Gold's Gym and eating. That was my life. It really wasn't social at all. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't drink alcohol for like 3 or 4 years during that time frame because it wasn't part of the mix. But now I've maintained, I've built up, and yeah, I'm glad I did it because now you've got it. You just have to maintain it.
Maintain it. Right. Exactly.
But I'm small, man. I'm so small compared to some of these, and you have to be because of the camera. It's not. If I wasn't into film, I probably would have. I probably would have competed a little bit because I love it, but you can't. The camera, it just doesn't work. You gotta maintain that.
Yeah,
frame.
exactly. Lose the TV 10.
Yes. Yeah. Me above one. Once I get above like 162, 165, it's just like no. I've been really 160's been very, very good for me. Around even like 158 is even better. I've got one thing at the end here.
Sure.
That I like to do. And by the way, thanks so much for your time. This has been great.
My pleasure.
I call it the shootout. I say a word that's industrial related to you, and you just kind of say the word that comes back to mind, like first off, top of your head.
Sure. Okay.
Drama.
Latina.
Romance.
Fabio.
That's the best answer out of all the episodes. That's the best. Comedy.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Yeah, man. Great response. Typewriting or typewriter.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Or Hank Moody.
Right.
Traveling.
Aruba.
Writing.
Pen.
Marketing.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah. Man, he's been like a pit bull lately.
He's amazing.
He is just pounding people right now on those live streams. It's actually hilarious. Social media.
Facebook.
Final drafts.
Software.
New York.
Manhattan.
Starbucks.
Need some.
Yeah, exactly. What was the one thing that you got? What was it? It was like that
was great. The little egg bites.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. Or you mean the drink or the food?
Both. I mean, you had a whole ensemble going. The egg bites.
Yeah, the egg bites are great. And it was, I don't know, it was like some
mocha.
It was a drink I was trying. Yeah, it was like some mocha thing I was trying to get, but they didn't have. Yeah. That was great.
I was actually surprised we were able to park at that parking garage for like $4. That was unprecedented.
Yeah.
I was proud of my research because the three of us were in the vehicle like coming in, and I was like Googling and doing the whole phone finagling thing, and I was like, you know what? Let's just park at what was that, the mall or whatever that thing was.
Oh, it was Journal Square.
We parked there. I don't know what it was. Oh, it was the train station.
Yeah.
Parking lot. Because we could either try and do the street thing, and I was like, you know what? Let's just go into that parking garage is huge.
The PATH train.
The PATH train. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think it was like $3.75. I was like, man, this is a joke. This is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm patting myself on the back for this. It was the latte cost more than the parking, which is surprising.
Exactly.
So I always ask this question. This is the last question. I ask it to everybody. If you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him as advice?
That's a really good question. Um, I have so much I would say, but I think ultimately I would say, you know what, everything's going to turn out all right. You know,
Mm,
just enjoy life, be a teenager.
yeah.
Because I was
Yeah.
really focused, kind of like you. I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking about business and making. I was reading, Wealth Without Risk at 12. Literally. So I was always like about entrepreneurship and whatever. That was like my thing. But I think I'll go back and tell my 15-year-old self, just enjoy life, do all the teenagers things.
Right.
You'll be plenty of time for all the other stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's weird because I'm in my mid-20s and I feel like I'm regressing, so to speak, in
Okay.
certain ways. I don't know, like, just because my teen years, like yours, were just pound, pound, pound,
Hmm.
and now it's like, dude, you got to live a little bit,
Yeah, you
especially
do.
especially with
Yeah.
this thing going on, because I had the unique opportunity to work with my friend's company just on the side. And
Hmm.
I got called in to run some sound gigs for him with the live bands. He owns a DJ company and like sound light stage company, and he's taking a big hit right now. But before all this, for a few months, I was just helping out with some gigs, and I was just hanging out at frat houses, running sound, and doing the partying thing for a little bit. I was like, man, I'm getting paid to have the college experience. This is great.
Exactly.
I don't have to
Exactly.
worry
Yeah.
about getting up in the morning and going to take an exam. Like, this is fantastic. And then the whole world basically shut down. I had my glory for a couple of months,
Okay. There you go.
you know. But then again, I guess I've had it as well with playing shows. But it's always different, you're focusing.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm on stage, I'm focusing. But this is definitely making me think and really ponder about next time I'm on stage and I have that opportunity to just I know it'll be different.
Yeah. Definitely. We'll all be different after all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any
For sure.
last words?
Uh, I think maybe my last words would be not my last words, but last
Yeah.
few words of the show. I think would just be my message to people right now if they're going through challenging times to take a breath, um, get themselves centered one way or another, um, and know that much of our life is a lot about perspective. So if you're having a hard time, every time you go on social media, try not going to social media one day.
Right.
If
Right.
you watch the news constantly and it's making you literally sick, maybe don't do that for a day. See what difference it makes for one day, and then keep doing it if it's working for you. Um, I would say, yeah, just keep your head sane as much as possible because that is the beginning of everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Well, thanks so much again for your time, and uh, glad we were finally able to do this.
yeah,
It's
me too. I'm glad. I'm glad.
uh, it's just again, it's so surreal that, and it's weird because it's clicked in certain ways in my mind that this is happening. Like this is actually happening right now. But in certain ways, it's still very surreal
It
that that
is.
that we're in this world.
It's true. It's like living in a movie. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
Literally.
I don't even realize that I go outside the door. Today, a neighbor knocked on my door, and she was wearing one of those massive, like bird type of masks, and like talking to me through the whole conversation. I'm like, what is this? This is like some weird, like I don't know, bizarre sci-fi movie.
New York will definitely be different for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think a lot of people will probably end up moving out to the country after all this.
yeah,
People will be, if they were thinking about it before, they'll start spreading. You know.
even more so than 9/11.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many people that I know that are millennials like me, or I mean, even beyond that are just they're gone. They're not there. They
Hmm.
left. They're back with their parents or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Global reset.
for real.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you guys been listening to the Jason Damico Show and watching the Jason Damico Show. For more information on Jeff, refer to the description box down below or to the side if you're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes. I know that those are a little different, but YouTube, description box down below. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.